This conference will now be recorded.
And I got to go here. So one thing I wanted to do today, we'll kind of work on how we do these meetings as we continue to have them. But in some ways, I like them to be, in some cases, if there's a subject matter expert, I'd like to bring that person in and talk for the full time. But I think equally as valuable, if not more so, is having you guys interact on the series of topics and share your experience and things that are working. And that's kind of the style I wanted to talk about today. And the first person I wanted to have talk, where are you, Katie? Oh, there you are. Just have Katie talk about two things, if you're okay, Katie, doing that, Katie.
Yep.
Is two
fine.
programs. Do you have something you want to show, or I'll make you present, or you can decide either way. But I talk with Katie basically every week with her and her owner Connor, and the head of business development is Meg Ross, and been doing it for a long time, pre-COVID basically, and seeing what's changed. And what I've noticed is might have been a self-fulfilling prophecy because I think one of the people didn't like to make calls, but we were making 100 to 200. I want to say, I forget what our number was, Katie. Like how many volume prospecting calls were we making?
The volume was 225 for both Meg and when David was here as well.
Yeah. And we did that, and it's not that we won't get into the details of that, but basically that wasn't yield anything. And what happened recently, one of the business development people left, and Meg kind of assumed a leadership role. And you and her, as I remembered, started this surgical prospecting thing at the beginning of the year. I'm remembering the timing correctly?
No, it was at this like mid Q2.
Mid Q2.
Early quarter two.
And my recollection is as we started to move in this direction, that all of a sudden we were starting to have this and other things we can go into, but this seemed to perk up the number of meetings that were generated from, basically cold outreach, not warmed up outreach, but kind of cold, still cold outreach. Am I remembering that still pretty well? Yeah.
Yep.
And we started to see meetings happening, but through this approach. So I thought it'd be worth, and it's, I would love for you to go through it, and then we'd love to talk about how people have done something similarly and how they would kind of add to the recipe as we go through it. So if you don't mind, and then we're going to talk about another one, right? So let me just, the second thing too that Katie has spearheaded is she also, I guess scans is the right word. I don't know if you have some kind of like automated tool that actually does that for you, Katie, but you're it. Okay.
All manual.
Katie basically will screen the sites in the different places that are putting out job help wanted ads for job descriptions, basically for positions that companies in Montana are looking to place. And then she uses that scan to identify people that might be potential prospects for co-managed opportunities so that they would actually kind of work with FirstCall rather than just hiring somebody. So I thought we can go through that just as food for thought about how we can all together find some more co-managed opportunities as well.
Quick question.
Both on here.
Quick question, Katie, are you in Montana, if I recall correctly?
Yes, so FirstCall is in Montana. I personally am not.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
But North Dakota is the same thing, Katie.
It's close enough. Another big state. Basically the same. So in this really quickly put together presentation, so I do have our surgical prospecting process outlined, and then I'll pause. So if you guys have questions or we want to have a conversation, and then I can go into the job post lead generation. But so with Meg taking over the business development director, we met mid quarter two and discussed a new plan going forward because obviously volume prospecting wasn't working for us with the amount of volume and the qualification. We weren't getting the right people at the right time. So we worked out a surgical prospecting process to really leverage the contacts that we've already qualified. And so in doing that, we kept it at an industry, zoom out here, an industry focus. So this quarter, we focused on manufacturing, healthcare, financial, and half of our government qualified list. So pre-planning was on my marketing side. I put together resources, and leveraged a lot of resources within our tool stack, our BCIOs, which I think other people on here call them your TAMs. We call them BCIOs. So I leverage them to put together some case studies specific to the different industries and work with our clients to get those testimonials and have those ready for Meg when she's doing her prospecting, as well as Meg created a unique video for the industries prior to starting her campaign, wrote out a couple blogs that were specific handouts. And then I also work with a company called Greetable, who, if any of you are familiar, they have unique little box gifts that you can do, like two or three little giveaway thingies in it, and they handle all the mailing and packaging, and it's really nice. You literally just send them a list of names with their addresses and they go through. And so on Meg's side of it, she built her contact list of the surgical prospects that she was actually outreaching to. And then she managed her schedule and her plan. And we just kind of coordinated. I had all the resources ready for her in our ticketing system that we use. And then when she needed anything else, just communication is crucial. But does anybody have questions or want me to dive into any of that more in depth?
The video, was that on your website, or was that one of those ones you would embed in an email?
She was embedding it in an email. We did not post it on our website this time.
Okay.
We do, I didn't add this here, and that actually reminded me, we have unique landing pages for
That's
different
fine.
industries as well. So we built web pages for manufacturing, financial, and government and made those live on our web page. We're still in the process of building additional industry pages, but having that content ready for her to send links and direct people to is really
Mind if
helpful.
I just ask you a couple questions, and you might have said this and it might have got past me too. So the contact list, what's for a particular industry, what's the range of numbers of contacts that we reach out in?
So government was our largest. I think we had about 250, and that's why we split that one in half. So we try to cap her outreach to at least 50 per industry, just because it is surgical and she wants to spend more time focusing on trying to find unique ways to engage with them. So we want to keep those lists a little bit shorter. And so government is the one that we had the largest pool of qualified.
Like the 52, is there any thought process about, did we already know them and something, like, was there any kind of prioritization scheme that says, these 50 should be first because we know people in 25 of them, or is any of that logic built into it?
So Meg has a list of her top prospects, and so from that list, a couple of them fall into the industry campaigns that we were doing, and so she basically would go through who she needed to reach out to first and who she needed to make sure that she was reaching out to in that campaign. And there are going to be a few stragglers that we're not able to reach out to. And so with our follow-up gift, go to the next one. So after she you're fine. After she completes the campaign, she shares a list of people that she either wasn't able to connect with that she really wants to engage with, or people that she was able to connect with that she wants to go a little bit further or kind of push them a little bit more down the funnel. And we kept that list at about 30 prospects that we sent out the unique gifts to. And so as she's doing her prospecting and calls, she's also trying to confirm like mailing addresses for people that she wants to send out those gifts to so that they don't bounce back.
Well, if we go back to the last one, just so I understand, what's the sequence? Do you send out an email with a video? Is it sequential in the sense on the left-hand side? So you sent, the first thing she does is send out a video?
I tried to keep it in line with what she does. So she calls, follows up with an email of her video introduction. This is who I am. Here's some information, directs them to our landing page. And then her next outreach calls, drips a case study or a blog, depending on what we have available. And then the follow-up is she's like, I'll leave you with this information. It's usually the handout. If I'm in town, I'll try to stop by. And if it's somebody
that's the one I was missing. So that is if she's physically in the area. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And then also if she's expecting to send out a gift, usually when she mentions a gift, she gets a response. And so then that's her last effort. And so that's why we've been doing the follow-up prospecting gift.
And then
rather than an intro.
Points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Case studies and blogs are interchangeable.
How many calls does she make? Does she make 3?
3. Yep.
Okay. And then she sends a follow-up. So the follow-up grip is then like the parting shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then depending on the level of qualification and whether or not it's a prospect that we're really dying to get in front of, she does schedule when she's in the area to do a drop-in and hand out additional information in her card.
So then you say if you started out with, let's say, 100 of those, then when you get to your next slide, that the ones you stay in active pursuit of reduces down to more like 30.
And those usually get added to her top prospect list.
This is really good, actually, Katie. This is very good, actually.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions?
Having done it, would you change any aspect of it? No?
Say that one more time.
Having done this for a while, is there any refinement that you would have to the way that we're doing it?
Not just yet, especially now, like given, Meg's schedule, we haven't really been able to focus as much on surgical. So we've been focusing on current sales that we're trying to move down the funnel. So there hasn't been, we haven't revisited to make any changes just yet, but it has been working.
My impression of being in your sales meeting on Mondays is that this is the thing that has been generated, in addition to trade shows, which we can go into at some point, but this is the thing that from a cold standpoint seems to be generating the most FTAs for you.
And also I would like to mention, so when Meg is doing the surgical outreach, in addition to the email, she's also trying to use her contact network and connect with people that may be able to give her a personal introduction and get in that door as well. I didn't mention that. But finding unique ways is all about the surgical process of finding how to get in front of somebody.
Now, this is really good. I hadn't gotten into the details of this. You always hear about people having these 23-step sales processes or all this. I actually like the increase. I actually like everything, but I like the burst at the beginning, and then I like the narrowing down the list for an expanded pursuit process too. I think the two are actually quite brilliant. Somebody's asking questions and I'm not paying attention.
I just thought, so Lucy, the video, it's basically just a scripted video where Meg's introducing herself as the point of contact for any pains. And then we usually try to dig up, like we understand, so let me find an example. So for our government officials, like we understand that you guys are being scrutinized with the regulations that are now coming down. We're specialized in that. We know how to help you walk through like cybersecurity, get you guys prepared. Just really try to keep it simple and sweet. Don't want to go over like a minute, 30 seconds. Usually you lose people after like the minute. So it's literally just a way to introduce Meg and get some like her voice out there and like her content out there. And like, just in terms of the statistics, people say people are more apt to watch a video than they are to read through a long email. So that's just the basic gist of we want people to know who Meg is and be familiar with her so that when she maybe does meet them in person or is able to connect with them on the phone, they recognize and relate, basically.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question?
So does anybody else do something quite similar to this?
Our CAM, or I guess BCIO, he has done a few during, well, I guess we're still in COVID, but early on in COVID, he started doing kind of little get to know videos, but his were more, it was already to our current clients and like, hey, I have this for us to look at. So we kind of did that route, but we haven't started yet making videos for our business development to send out.
Those were very good, Lucy, by the way. That was Hank, right?
Yes, it was Hank.
Hank came off actually very professional and articulate in those things. And actually, can I ask you both, what tool do you use to create those videos? Is it like a special tool in terms of
so for us, we were using, what was it, Adobe, the video editor for Adobe. We had somebody in our web department that would film it for us, and then he managed the editing, but we just actually lost him. So we have to figure out another way to do it. So I'm open to ideas.
We used Premiere for some videos, but Hank actually used, I'm trying to pull up the name of it.
Yeah,
it was a tool that made it a lot easier to.
Was it a Chrome extension? Do you remember?
Oh,
I'll find it out.
I think it was. but there was a name of like a
Soapbox.
one. Soapbox, yes.
Soapbox, yeah.
Yes.
Soapbox is one, it's an easy to use one. It's almost like self-editing in a sense. In other words, you can, like, salespeople, what it's intended to do is have salespeople be able to create their own videos.
Gotcha.
And I think you can even track
Open and all
how,
that.
like, who watched it, like if someone actually watched it. I don't know all the specifics, but I know that Hank used that, and then the other videos we did, we used Premiere.
I think, Michael, you might have mentioned that one to me a while ago, Soapbox.
Soapbox, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's other ones like that. I mean, I think that was actually one of the most original ones that I became aware of. Oh, that's a very good campaign, Katie.
Yeah, it's worked out so far. And at the end, I'll tell you guys about an example that was actually a dual.
Okay, I'll let you get going. I've been interrupting
version.
you too much. Go
No,
ahead.
you're fine. So I'll move on. So this isn't necessarily new. It's just we revamped and started doing it over again. This is something that I did when I initially was hired and I was a marketing assistant. But we call it job post lead generation, and it's specific to co-managed IT and trying to find leads for that by searching through job posts. And so I look at sites like Indeed, Monster, LinkedIn job posts, and then I also have a ticket that generates that has attachments for all of our local newspapers around Montana. So like, well, you guys aren't familiar with the capitals. Anyways, all of the Montana states or cities that we frequent and their job sites. And then I just use the key search terms IT support, help desk, technology, and IT. So you can see around the side, I just took a screenshot. I haven't done this for the past week, but you'll see these are all my frequently searched job positions, and it shows you how many are new. And so I just go through those every Monday. I have a ticket that generates and I search through those. And so really what I'm looking for are companies that are in the right size for us. So like whether they're in our trading area for co-managed services, we like to focus on the western side of Montana, and then also focusing on the right size of employees. So about 50 to 30 employees, has to be independently owned and an industry that we service. So any of the industries that I've named so far, and then we have quite a few more. And then also that they have insourced IT, so meaning they have their internal IT department already there. And so for the job posts, I'm usually looking for companies that are searching for an additional resource to their team, not like an actual IT director of their current department. We want to be an added support to their already existing team. And then also try to find a direct contact for us to reach out to. And so I have actually seen quite a bit of success with this.
Yeah,
It's
good.
a little bit harder to find the point of contact for Meg to follow up with, but there really are a lot of companies out there that don't necessarily realize that MSPs can help with that added support and not fully take over their IT department. And so this has opened the door to having conversations with IT directors and CIOs and things like that, where they didn't know that this was an option for them. And so I can go into the example, or if anybody has questions before I go into the example that I have.
So is it, so you set those criteria up, so you get a job, well, I guess you're gonna go through the example, so be quiet, but it's basically you doing the research at this point, right?
Yes, yeah. So I scan through these on Mondays. Usually takes me about an hour to an hour and a half to get through all the new ones that they've posted. And there are a lot of companies that refresh their job posts throughout the weeks. And so I try to skip through those and just generate one lead ticket for our business development executive to follow up on. And so the example that I'm going to go through right now, I don't know if I actually have the job post that they posted, but it is, they're called Emmanuel Lutheran Retired Living or Assisted Living. And so this is a pretty large opportunity for us. And this actually was a combination between both me searching through the job posts that they posted as well as Meg's surgical campaign. It just happened to work out that we added them to our test campaign that we sent out. And I created a lead ticket for a job post that they had posted, assigned Meg to it. I believe it was the CEO, received our little goodie box and asked to follow up with Meg and scheduled a meeting. And they have about, I think it's 270 users. And so it's in the right window of our size. And it really, I couldn't have asked for a better way for it to work out. We're still in the sales process and trying to work them through our funnel, but we're very optimistic that it's going to work out in our favor. And I was very happy to see it come through as a job
And
search
what's
team.
interesting too, Katie, in that specific instance, if I remember correctly, is that the one that's the assisted living situation?
Yes.
Yeah. That their current MSP is somebody that's like an industry, like they work across the whole country servicing specifically
Yep.
assisted living. So they
Yeah,
actually had a pretty strong incumbent.
Yep, it's a national company, and they just felt like they weren't getting their needs weren't being met. They had a lot of issues, and especially they had a lot of facilities that when their network would go down, obviously the residents were really, that's their whole life is, I mean, internet's everybody's life.
Just
But
pause,
it affected them.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It really heightened the pain of the management team and trying to find a solution. They currently are still in a contract with this other company, and they're trying to work ways to get out of it because they just really are not happy. And they initially were looking for somebody, they have a full internal IT team, but they were looking for somebody that could service their network internally and ensure, like monitor it so that the issues went down. And so they were basically trying to add to their team to compensate for a business that they were already paying to do exactly that. And so they just were not happy, and it's a lot of pain, and it opened the door to talk to us.
Yeah, so two things that I just wanted to pile on in terms of the discussion. So I know actually Katie and Lucy and Marissa and us will be working on this co-managed thing a lot going forward. But the one thing you realize about that was instructive here that I think should be brought up to the whole group is co-managed doesn't mean anything, right? It's a term of art that we've developed in the MSP industry. So in any kind of circumstance like this, and I think this is just a really good example of it, is that there's a certain degree of education on what co-managed actually is, but what value it provides to the people that you're talking to. And in this case, what it allows them to do is basically take a category of work called, network management, whatever you want to call it. Instead of hiring a person, outsource it to FirstCall. I know that sounds really basic, but that was like it was like in this case, in most cases, that's like a revolutionary thought, right? Their natural inclination is to hire people. So this was a great example of taking somebody through like an education or messaging process, whatever term you want to use, and shifting and reframing the way they're thinking about solving the problem, the pain that they have. And at least is my recollection, my last sales meeting a week ago Monday, was we had at least several meetings with the people that were pretty senior C-level people at this company, and this is an active alternative that they're considering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we actually, Connor and Meg had dinner with them on Monday as well. Had a couple prospects up in the same area, and they took, I think it was 8 people they went out to dinner with, and no business was talked, but it was just a relationship building step. So it's been really good so far, and they do seem, I feel that we have their buy-in in terms of what our goals are, and they align with them. We really try to, so I think we initially met with the CIO, if I'm not mistaken. And so usually we get a fair bit of pushback from the director of information, just because the initial instinct I feel is like, you're coming to take my job. Like, what am I going to do if you come in and manage our IT? And so we're trying to reframe it in terms of managed or IT with you, or IT for you, IT done with you, IT done for you, to really get away from that stigma of like, you're trying to come take my job.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, so more to come on co-managed, actually. We're gonna form a little subgroup within STP that's going to try to push the envelope on what we're calling co-managed right now. And what are all the different dimensions that we got to get correct in order for us to be the best in the industry at marketing co-managed. Cool. So then Did I interrupt your flow, or are we at your last slide there?
Nope, that was my last slide. Emmanuel Lutheran was the only example that I had prepared to talk about, but we did have a couple other
was gonna say, yeah.
opportunities that have come in that aren't ready to convert just yet, but we have the conversation started.
Just so we get the flow straight then, so you identify them, then does Meg calls them, or do you kind of warm them up with some kind of
No, so
email?
I identify them. I try to qualify them before I even hand them off to Meg. So I find
Yeah.
a direct contact for her to follow up with. I find an email, I find a direct phone number, and then I hand it off to her with all the information that I have available. And as long as it's qualified, she'll follow up and set next steps. Usually she tries to find, similar to the surgical process, she tries to find somebody that might know them that can give her an introduction to
Very
warm it
good.
up that way.
Yeah. But we don't send them an email in advance of her calling, which describes why we're calling. No.
She might send a pre-email, but I don't do that, no.
Yeah, I think it might be
Yeah,
wise, honestly. Yeah.
yeah.
Out of curiosity too, is the decision maker ever? Can you remember the decision maker ever being a human resources person?
I don't know.
Yeah, so I was just curious whether it's part of the reason of success is that you kind of don't talk to HR in a sense.
Yeah, a lot of times. So I've noticed for the LinkedIn job post that I find, it usually is their HR representative that's posting it. So I
Yeah.
usually try to find an upper level executive that will likely make the decision on who to hire and who not to hire, and trickle in information to them and get Meg in their path.
Nothing against HR people, but it's just they kind of defend the status quo sometimes, right? So
Yeah.
you could actually find the person that has the pain being the CFO or the CEO or the operations person.
And usually with HR, they're trying to fill just one position. So they're kind of tunnel vision of like, nope, I'm trying to find a resource for this position alone, not looking for additional solutions or anything like that. And yeah, it's
Cool.
harder.
So what brand of hotel have you been staying at in North Dakota now? It's been several weeks, right?
It's been 6 weeks. We're in a Residence Inn.
What is it?
Residence Inn.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice from here, actually.
It is nice. It's old.
Any
but
nice. Group questions for Katie? And I appreciate you doing it. I like actually, I was wondering if I could, we got the if you could send me
The
a hard
recording?
copy of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send this to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right, my friend Marissa, you there?
Hey, Michael,
Yes.
this is Tim. Hey, my questions would be, thanks for putting that together. It was very nice. I'm assuming you'll send that presentation out, Mike,
Yes.
everybody. And then I did have a question. What was the company used for the novelty gifts?
Oh, did I lose Katie?
It's Greetable, Greetabl.
Oh, there she is. I didn't lose her.
Greetable.
We lost her
Greetable.
for a second. Maybe I did something like knocked her out of the meeting, but was it Greetable, the company that you used?
Sorry, I X'd out. Greetable is the company that we use for the gifts, and they've been great to use so far. You can get like a subscription, or you can do a one-off order with them. It was pretty affordable. I liked it.
I had one time in the past, I read about it and I tried it out, worked pretty well. I got these chocolate lollipop things, milk chocolate, made in the shape of a foot. And I sent them out and just said, hey, just trying to get a foot in the door.
Oh, I like that. I really like that.
It's pretty
We had to
good.
do, we did popcorn, and our message was just popping in to say hello. We'd love to
there
pop
you go.
in the future. But I really wanted to do something with chocolate, but it was getting too warm out, and they stopped sending out anything that will melt.
That is a concern of the heat. I guess.
Pretty funny.
Thank you.
All right. How about Marissa? Are you there?
I am.
Do you need to present anything, or we just want to run through it verbally?
Nope, I just wrote a couple of things down for just the alliances and a couple of the different things that have benefited us. And it's more the stuff that's more in my direct control, not necessarily with the business development people, though they do have a role in this as well. But
So
I kind of narrowed it down to, sorry,
yeah,
go
what I
ahead.
want to do, just let me announce to the group because we wanted to kind of, after Marissa's talking. What I really wanted to do was to say, if we had a list, if we were able to have a list of all the events, like the co-marketing events we did that actually created, you know, a significant number or whatever number, you know, at least has produced some sales opportunities for them. Like, what were those events? And I wanted to see like what the commonalities are. And it's okay if you haven't done events, but if we have done events, like which ones actually created potential opportunities, let's just say in the 2 to 4 range. Right? And I know this is the one thing that I believe AtNetPlus does more so than a typical MSP. So I'd ask them to start and have us fill in the blanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, I know I've gone over kind of portions of this with other things that we've talked about, but just the webinars with the other companies in our area. I think when I talked about this before, I kind of brought up that you want to be a little bit strategic about the kind of company that you're going to do events with. Like for us, we do the law firms, the accounting firms, but we do that in such a way where we basically say, hey, these are essential advisors to your business, but so is IT. So, you know, we sit at the table just like your accountant does, just like your lawyer does, that type of thing. We've done webinars with them. We get actually a pretty good registration turnout for those. I know that COVID has kind of killed the webinar thing, so it's going to take a little bit of time for that to kind of start crawling back out of the grave, but I still think that there's something worth it to that because you can kind of be strategic in who you get to attend those things. We've gotten a decent amount of opportunity that's come from that, but what's unique about that is if you record the webinars, you have video content basically that can be pushed out after the fact. So that means that you're continuously getting the opportunities from the work that you already did. You don't necessarily have to keep continuing to build out content. You're just using that same content to get more opportunities. So I think that that's a worthwhile spend of energy for us, especially if somebody else is kind of talking through the content. If all we're really doing is promoting it and then we post the video, I mean, that's just gaining traction over time.
So if you had to say,
Another
like, if you look back, Marissa, what's the number, like if you said here's your top 3 in terms of number of people attending and how many leads came out of it? Because I'm thinking you did some that were with more than one law firm, right? So like I remember, and
Yeah,
I might remember this completely wrong. Didn't you do one on like Teams Voice that got like a whole bunch of people too?
Yeah, actually, that was something I was going to bring up is
oh, okay,
the ones
sorry,
that we did with the law.
I get you off track.
Oh, you're fine. No, it's just because we're on the same page, you know? Exactly.
Yeah.
The ones that we did with the law firms that were a little bit on the smaller end, I'd say more like in the 40 registrations end, we probably had maybe 4 conversations from that and then maybe 2 opportunities that actually bloomed from that. But ironically, the Teams Voice one that we did, that was just, you know, our internal staff. It was me and then another member of the technical team. I mean, we have probably done, wow, probably like 10 voice migrations from that. So technically that wasn't even really
and it wasn't, you didn't
bringing
do that
in
with
outside.
you didn't do that with like Microsoft or anybody else, right? You did that on your own.
No, that was just on our own. So it kind of just depends on how you want to finagle it, but you can also do these things internally. But I just kind of wanted to take it to the other end of, we used to do this event called the Business Technology Forecast, where basically we tried to get 200 people in a room. And for any of you guys that do events, you know, I mean, just saying that kind of gives me anxiety. But the ironic part of that is that was a lot of legwork, a lot of money, a lot of planning, all these other things. And honestly, we probably got maybe 2 opportunities from that. So it's not necessarily proportional at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was something like, you know, on a good side, like 4 to 6, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the 1 year was around that.
I'm trying to remember the topics though, because I remember Jade, if I remember these, can help me if my aging memory is wrong. So Jay did one with a law firm that was just him and like a lawyer talking about like security, right?
Yeah, it was kind of the work from home and then the new security threats that were basically rising because of that.
And then how many did you get for 100? Was that the 40 or was that a different one?
That one was the 40 one.
That was the 40. Now, what was the second one where you guys did it with, I think, a law firm and like an HR consultant?
Yeah, you got it. And then for that one, we had 25 register.
And did you get any, I think you still got 2 or 3 opportunities, at least one I'm aware of, right?
Yeah, you're right.
I actually think you got a client out of that one, actually.
We did. I think we got one client from that one, but that was
Right.
kind of what I was going to bring up too, is
That's
the
fine.
benefit of doing these things when, you know, they kind of align with your guys' business, and even the business kind of has a cross section somewhere, is they're basically handing you perfect leads. I mean, they're the kinds of businesses that are exactly what you're looking for in terms of size and budget and everything, and it's basically coming from somebody else's list.
Yeah, I think this is one thing that you guys, I forget, in the teams one I wanted to make sure we brought up too. And do you still do like your regular cadence in a month? Would you still, you probably haven't reinstituted it, but didn't you used to do like lunch and learns and all that stuff once a month too, and different kinds of
Yeah, you
in-house
got it.
events, right? Yeah, so this substitutes for that, but I think the cool thing for people that don't know is Marissa is on the forefront of the marketing profession, because her whole goal and what she's actually compensated, I guess it's in your incentives, is lead generation, right? Like your goal is discovery meetings.
Yeah, you got it. But as the marketing person, I'm playing a little bit more of the long game. So a lot of the times we get an opportunity that like a year later we'll kind of end up closing, but they say, oh no, I've been keeping an eye on things this whole time. But it's like, oh boy, marketing people have to play the long game all the time.
Yeah. And can I ask you a quick question too? Did you, at the companies that you do these co-marketing things too, I remember we did one that didn't get the kind of results because they didn't promote it the way we want to. So as part of
Yep,
the
right.
secret sauce, making sure that you work with and have a good relationship with your counterpart on the other side.
Absolutely. If they have a marketing person, I would highly recommend that you get in contact with them. Don't have the owner be the middleman for that, because you kind of just want to actually be able to work with somebody directly. And if you take a peek through their social media or their website and you're like, what the heck is going on here? That's probably a bad sign, because they need to be able to promote it on their end as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on your, so the one that surprised me. So am I misremembering one that had something like 60 to 80 attendees? Is that, am I out of my mind on that one?
That was the one with the lawyer and the accountant.
The lawyer and the accountant, right? So you had 3 companies.
Yeah, you got
to get people there. Okay, that's what I remember. And that was in the, you know, that was very impressive, because that was in the midst of like everybody in the world doing webinars too. So
Right, yeah, beginning of everything.
I think the big thing, and just say one more word about the Teams one, then we'll switch over to Ashli in a second. Teams one.
Yeah, no problem. So that one, I think it just kind of speaks more to, if you guys are looking for something that you can do that doesn't necessarily require, you know, all this planning with somebody else per se, that I know Lucy does a good job with this. And I mean, I'm sure you all do this to a degree. I just don't know as much about it, but just leverage the people that are internal. I mean, you can use their faces, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the owners of your company. It can just be the people that work on this every day. And because the people know, you know, the technicians' names, they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to tune in and kind of see, you know, what he has to say. Or everybody has, you know, their favorite technician. So they're like, of course I'm going to tune into my favorite technician, see what he has to say. So we actually got a lot of mileage out of that, because, you know, the person that actually does the Teams migrations is the person that gave part of the webinar. So
that's very cool.
That definitely helps.
I would just say in general, I was going to talk to like the owners meeting about this too. I think everybody's kind of figuring out, like Jay's company is doing very well, and they kind of asked us collectively within myself, and Jay's team, like what is it that is producing the kind of awesome results that they have? And part of it is, one of the things is this, I think Jay's group, probably more so than others, does do a lot more kind of co-marketing events with outside people. And I've seen, honestly, my opinion would be is every time you do this, they're probably getting at least 1 or 2 clients. And if they don't get it, doesn't bum them out. They just still do a different one the upcoming month. So that's one thing I would encourage all of us to do it. I also wanted, did you have any other, I don't mean to cut you or Katie off. What's anything else you were going to cover that I just butchered for you?
Oh, no, you're totally fine. I was just going to quickly bring up one other thing that we actually just tried for the first time. I think it was last week, was a Topgolf event. So basically, we partnered with a software company, which is they have very closely related clients to us, but our services are not 100% overlapping. So basically, we brought 2 of our clients and they brought 2 of theirs. It was a very small group, but both of those people are having conversations with us right now because it was just an extremely targeted ask. And we worked with that other company to make sure that they were bringing companies that were a certain size, that needed a certain thing. So
That's
basically,
very
we
good.
were almost scrubbing through the other company, not the people themselves. And I feel like that was really beneficial. And the whole event was like, I want to say $500, but we split that in half with the other company. So I think that that might be kind of the future. Like Michael was talking about the round tables, but maybe just smaller,
Yeah.
more targeted events. I see that definitely taking off more than these big events in these corporate spaces anymore.
I agree. It's actually interesting because I think that it's for those of us that just recently out of school, including myself in that, but it's like the whole thing about marketing effectiveness is the more almost micro it is. Like if you think about it, the ultimate form of marketing is if, Alex gets, kind of a retargeting message because she likes to shop for coffee, right? And and the more we know about how she shops for coffee, what she likes and all that stuff, the message just becomes much more micro and much more targeted. And I think that's where everything heads towards. And I think I won't say the owners in MSP and STP, but MSPs in general still think about marketing as this kind of broad general thing, right? And that's what we're up against. It's honestly pretty much just nonsense in marketing. So I think it allows us to be much more kind of on the forefront of the industry of doing this kind of stuff in a professional and kind of detailed manner. And I think what you described there is a great example of that, Marissa. I wanted to ask anybody else, have you done an event or webinar or roundtable with an outside party that has generated business for you this year? And if so, what was it?
So we partnered with the ALACC, which is it's the Association of Legal Administrators for the Capital chapter. We also partner with the Puget Sound chapter, but we did one with the Capital group last month, and
Okay.
we did have a lead that came in and was interested. We recently hired, Michael's well aware, recently
Yeah.
hired some business development folks, and so they were able to capitalize and use that list and do some outreach. So we did see we were in good conversations with a group that came through that, and then also just this last couple days we've had a few more law firms come in
Cool.
the DC area. So
Good for you,
that
Briana.
was where that kind of came
Congratulations.
off.
Congratulations. I'm glad to see you get that. Can I ask you a couple other quick ones? Now you guys did a whole bunch of stuff with, I know you guys sold a lot of like backup and recovery from data. Did any of
Mhm.
those data webinars create those opportunities, or where did those come from?
So the data webinars, I'm not sure if we've actually sold anything to like new prospects, but I believe
That's
that
all
we've used
existing.
it. Yeah, I think we've used it for, expanding on clients that we already were working with.
And then you guys are selling a buttload of Teams voice installations too. Is that coming from your SEO stuff, or did you do anything kind of like a webinar on that topic as well? I can't quite remember.
We did a webinar earlier this
That's what I
year
thought.
specifically about Teams. Yep, just about like newer features that they've rolled out over the course of COVID, to help Teams facilitate things better. And then we also have one next Tuesday with we're partnered with Star to Star, and they will be talking about their Teams integration for like desk phones and stuff like that. So we do have a little bit more in the pipeline about Teams and voice collaboration kind of tools as well.
And let me swing back to Marissa for a second. The Teams webinars that you did, what was the subject? What was the I guess what was the draw? Like what was the hook? Was it how to use Teams voice, or
Yeah,
the
I think the two
appropriateness of
things were
using it?
basically, just like some kind of cloud-based phone solution because people were using their cell phones for their business at home, and that kind of was creating a hot mess. So this is basically, you can still use your cell phones, but it's through an app and it's through your own business's number. So you just kind of start giving them these little things of like, you can still do it this way, but you're doing it better. Or, oh, you can just add a license to your already existing Office 365. So it's like realizing how easy it was instead of being like a pain point like phones usually are, I think spoke to people.
So let me now go ask Briana, anybody else, anything else that you guys did that kind of was a event or webinar that turned into business?
No, I think that those were kind of the big ones. I know that our team, we also, just for context on everyone else, we've also recently hired an account manager to help manage, our accounts. And I think just having someone in that position allowed us to really start to focus on expansion opportunities, which should have been addressed earlier, but now we have someone solely focused on it.
And I don't know if you know this, Briana, but Lucy also just got recently they got two hired, right? You got a business development person and somebody that's more like a inside salesperson, right?
Yes, we have someone in Chicago that's working remote, and he's doing the like fresh cold calls and making lists. And then we have a account executive who's in Austin, but she's working kind of both San Antonio and Corpus area in person.
The only reason I mentioned that is it actually having, like Katie went through, just having a business development person integrated in what you're doing for marketing increases your chances of success by like 1,000,000 times.
Oh, totally. I would do these webinars in the past, and I used to work at a startup, and so we had a pretty robust sales team that was just constantly grinding. And so I was always used to like getting done with a webinar and handing the leads off to someone. And I think in the past, before we had this, we were warming them with content, and people would come back by, their own desire and drive to really solve a problem, but we weren't actively following up on this stuff. So it is really nice to have that.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing in Katie's, in an inverse sense. It was in Katie's presentation, it was, marketing integrating with the business development, even in their outreach programs. It's a very powerful combination. I just want to go around real quickly. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I took some notes to present at our next sales meeting from Katie.
No, you should. I think that could actually have a lot of applicability. I think I just want to go through, anybody else do a specific event that actually created sales opportunity, significant sales opportunities over the past year, and what was it? Lucy, you look like you're ready to say something.
No, I think our last event was, I think it was with Rich.
Rich Kenny.
And I don't know if we got any. We did get a lot of
so I think
people join, but we didn't get much.
Yeah, let's write that down for you and I to follow up in San Antonio in particular, because Doug actually has as his clients some of the more prominent accounting firms and law firms in the whole state, right? And I think that's something we should actually juice up for you guys. Ask you, Ashli, did you do any events with NetApp? Who's the law firm that refers you all the business? The law firm software company, what's that one called? Begins with an N.
We have a few. Oh, Netdocs.
Netdocs, right? So did we ever do like joint? I know they refer us business from their sales force. Have we ever done like events with them or no?
Only webinars. We do usually like a webinar a year. And it's almost always the same. It's like what's new in Netdocs.
And did that? Because you do a lot of webinars, right? Did the Netdocs one at the time generate new business for you? Do you remember?
I think it did. I think
so.
Got a couple of people interested. I was trying to remember. I know a few have, but again, because we post them, sometimes it pulls things in later too. So
Lucy and Briana write down the net. I don't know if you guys have ever worked with them, but they are, I think, the #1 document management software company for law firms.
Could you say the name again?
Net Documents.
Netdocs.
And I think they are kind of neck and neck with iManage. That's another one. I personally stopped, because most of our clients are law firms. I personally stopped doing any marketing with iManage because their people were extremely difficult, and that was a situation. I think someone mentioned something similar earlier, where one time we were going to do a lunch and learn with them, and they didn't do any marketing or anything on their side and completely left everything up to us. But then they didn't even do the bare minimum when it came to planning. They didn't have people ready to present. I mean, it was a horrible mess. So I always, in case you look at other options, I always stick with Net Documents. Their people are awesome. They're really great to work with. They're very laid back. And
they also refer you a buttload of work, as I remember correctly, right? So this is something you should write down, by the way, because you guys do a lot of work with law firms. But I think I have, one of the reasons I can actually have these conversations is I typically talk to most companies with STP at least once a week or every other week, right? And one thing I noticed with Ashli's company is they were getting a lot of business, like an abnormally a lot of business from a line of business application company. So there's something there, law firms and this NetApps, because they were, I mean, in conversations, I remember getting three to four new clients just out of those kind of referrals in a year.
Yeah, it was really a high number. And I'll talk to Brian about that, because law firms have just seemed to be kind of I guess we've just signed a bunch of law firms more recently, so falling into that kind of industry. But one other thing that I remembered was we did do a HIPAA, HIPAA focus.
What's the name of that company?
Compliancy group. Yep, and they're really great. When we work with, we almost partner with a group on, I'd say all, but maybe we try to do a webinar a month. So, and we probably do our own specific Fusion Tech stuff maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So everything else we're partnering with other vendors on. And if anyone needs a list of the better vendors to work with that kind of come to the table with more, I'm happy to help share that, because I know there's some overlap in the tools and the things that we all use.
I was going to ask too, is Microsoft doing it? Do you get just like Microsoft partner with you guys, or is they mainly just like a market development fund thing? Like
we usually do with Microsoft. We usually will just do that stuff ourselves, because it's kind of hard to get the rep. Yeah, we had a rep that we worked really closely with in the past, but I think he since moved on to like a different, managing different types of accounts. So anything that we do about Microsoft, we typically just do ourselves, which is fine because we're pretty well versed in it. And I think it's a great opportunity to show off, how much we know about Microsoft, I guess.
So I'm going to go through one last one, and then I'll let everybody go back to work. But Ashli is now going to do some work with DatastreamInsurance.com, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to basically provide webinars for you on the topic of cyberinsurance.
Kind of, yeah. I have like a little presentation I can run through.
Okay, let me just make you present it real quickly. We'll get it on Make Presenter.
And Michael, will you make sure to just, because of time wise, to send out that presentation from Ashli if she's allowed to share it? That would be great.
Yeah, from Katie, right? Katie. From Katie or Katie. Yes.
Katie, and then also Ashli. She just mentioned that she had like a small presentation that and just would love to have that, because obviously lots of questions about cyber security insurance.
Yep. Do you want to go through it, Ashli, or what do you want to do real quick?
Yeah, I can go through it. It's pretty quick, so it won't go full screen for some reason. My computer's acting up, so I apologize. But just really quickly, they are a cybersecurity insurance company. They're backed by large capital groups. I really like that they're low risk because most of our clients are law firms. To me, that was actually really important. And they actually only provide cybersecurity insurance. They like to partner with MSPs and recommend MSPs to their clients. They use partners like us to help them to help their clients implement security measures as required by their policies. And they actually pay their partners like a small referral kickback as well, which I thought was kind of cool. This is the main thing, the webinar series. So we do webinars the last Wednesday of every month, and they're actually going to kind of carry me through the end of the year. So the first one actually broadcasted at 10 when we hopped on here. Just a really, really high level, who needs cybersecurity insurance, just to kind of start breaking the ice with that. And then we're kind of going to dive a little deeper. So the next one is the most common requirements for a cybersecurity insurance policy. Let's just say policy, not police. I put this together really quickly. Sorry, guys.
I didn't realize it turned that bad that they actually have police now.
There are no police. That should say police. Sorry, guys. I'll fix that before I send it over. The next one is reasons companies are either turned down for cybersecurity insurance, and or like the top reasons claims are rejected after an attack, even if they have cybersecurity insurance. And then I made the last one for them to really highlight themselves. What should you actually look for in a cybersecurity insurance company? So they can kind of use that to really talk about what sets them apart, but also still be more informative kind of as an authority. A couple of things I really liked. This slide in particular from the presentation. This is how to build an effective cyber risk program. So when they give a presentation to people, they actually say it's 90% is your MSP, this 10% is us. So that makes WAMs, any MSP look really good.
I'm a connoisseur of PowerPoints, and this is one of the coolest slides I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love it. I think they do a stellar job with this kind of stuff. So another great reason to be working with them. Just in general, I really like it. And then more of their slides are like this, though, I will say.
No, well, it was like going from Picasso to like, clip art. Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. And I like that they are a big data and statistics company just in general. So I just use this slide as an example. They use pretty recent numbers for this stuff as well. And just kind of the last little thing what we're doing in this partnership. So we're actually going to have like a partner meeting where we can learn how we can better refer and help one another. I'm also having them do a presentation to my client account management team at 2 today. And then they're also going to give one to my engineers and one of our Monday morning calls to like our whole team. So I tried to race through that really quickly for you.
Very, very good idea, actually, very good.
Thank you.
So who's going to show up from their side? Is it going to be like I don't know how they're organized. Do they have like a LA people you're working with, or these are just kind of national people you're working with?
Well, I know they're out of, I forget. They're out of California, but I don't know how they break everything down, but I believe they do everything nationally.
Andy and John do everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say
they do everything.
Their CEO seems to be really, really on top of everything.
Yeah, Andy is actually one of the greatest people to work with. He's so passionate about cyber insurance, and you want somebody like that. He's really, the whole team there is great to work with.
Yeah, really, really good enthusiasm. And they bent over backwards to make this webinar that broadcasted today happen for me. They've been stellar so far.
Awesome. So can you fix the police thing and send that to me?
Yes, I will.
And let us know how good it works still. Yeah, no, this is great. I'm glad I think this was a good meeting. I kind of like the sharing and the practicality of it, and kind of like picking the things that we can kind of show that work for one company that we can actually push forward too. So I appreciate everybody coming on. I'm 3 minutes over with, so I'll let you guys get back to work. How's Alex doing though? We didn't hear from Alex at all. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm good.
Are you good? You look tired.
Yeah.
We
have our company camping trip starting tomorrow through this whole weekend. So busy kind of putting that together. So yeah.
What is today? Wednesday. Okay, so yeah, so you're gonna take is it like a retreat thing, or is it a fun thing, or what is it?
It's a fun thing. Yeah, it's like pretty much the whole company goes out for like a weekend every year, and usually we have like maybe 1 or 2 people that can't make it. But we had to do it for an extra year this time because campgrounds are like very hot commodities, or an extra night this time, because campgrounds are very hot commodities this year apparently, and in 2020. So we had to actually book more nights in order to get the number of spots that we needed.
Okay. So
So yeah,
that's the stress in your life. I could tell you were stressed out today for something. I'm glad at least glad that's all it is, actually.
Yeah, our rules, like COVID restrictions, are constantly changing over here too, like every week. So it's a little tough to know what to do on the events front, but we're making the best out of it. So.
All right, everybody, this was great. It takes me a little while to have the recording convert to like YouTube, but I'll do that and send us out in the slides to everybody later today. Thank you all.
Have a great day.
Welcome, Ms.
Thanks,
Samantha.
Michael.
Bye.